Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Indianapolis Public School Board of Commissioners action session on December 9th, 2014, 7 p.m. to order. Let us start with our presentation of the colors. The colors are presented by Crispus Attucks Medical Magnet High School, Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps JROTC program. They are commanded by Cadet Command Sergeant Major Makira Draper. Her teammates are Cadet Staff Sergeant Matthew Mitchell, Cadet Major Isaiah Thomas, Cadet Staff Sergeant Malik Sturdivant, Cadet Captain Diego Reyes, and Cadet First Sergeant Kendall Davis.
Crispus Attucks Medical Magnet Title Battalion. Requesting mission to post code.
Mission granted.
Color guard, attention! Carry, color. Upward, march. Mark time, march. Colors, halt. Colors of verse, march. Present, on. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms. Colors of verse, march. Outward face. Upward march. Mark time, march. Colors, hold. Prepare to post. Post. Present. On. Order, on. Mark time, march.
Okay, thank you. Madam Secretary, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brown,
Aquí.
Commissioner Arnold,
Here.
Commissioner Cosby,
Present.
Commissioner Odle,
Present.
Commissioner Dare White, Commissioner Hannon,
Here.
President Roof.
Here. Thank you. Next is the adoption of the agenda. Do any board members see any changes or additions that need to be made to the agenda this evening?
Madam President, I do see one. Section 2 of the agenda is typically reserved for information only, and my understanding was that we would be taking action on the PLA Innovation School proposal this evening.
So do we need to move that to a different section for that to be proper? Okay, so does the board approve that we move that to new business? Is that okay with the board? We can just get a consensus on it. Is that okay?
Or, I guess that's the question. Are we voting on that, or are we just?
We are voting on that this evening. It is a voting item. Okay, then we will just add that to the new business section to keep that in compliance there. Okay. Next is recognition of groups in the audience. Are there any groups or people that need to be recognized in the audience? If so, please stand and state your name and your group. Rhonda Lynn Cornett with the IEA Board President. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. It is now time to turn to one of our more delightful tasks, special recognition of our outstanding parents. As I call your name, please come forward. Leonel Dominguez and Adis Morales. Are either one of them here tonight? No? I'm going to go ahead and read about them, and then we'll make sure they get their awards. Principal Kevin McMahon said that Leonel Dominguez and Adis Morales are very involved and supportive to the teachers and staff of School 109 and are very deserving of this recognition. So we will make sure that they get that award sent to their school principal. Thank you very much. Okay, and our featured entertainment this evening is the John Marshall Community High School Choir under the direction of Misha Benson, accompanied by Vincent Howard. This choir has participated in the Indiana State School Music Association for 2 years, receiving superior and excellent ratings. They sing a wide variety of music and have performed at many community functions. They will be having their winter concert this Tuesday, December 16th at 6 p.m. The concert is free to the public, and they would love to have you come and show your support. On behalf of the principal, Ms. Ashana Short, and the John Marshall family, we would like to wish you happy holidays. Please enjoy the John Marshall Community High School Choir.
Good evening. The song we're about to sing is about peace, and this song is dedicated to those who have lost a loved one due to violence. One candle
worship and adore him. Come, come, let us adore him. Kneel down before him. Worship and adore him. Emmanuel, 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 we worship you. We worship you. We worship you. We worship you.
Thank you very much, John Marshall. Let's give him another hand. We now move into the delegation. Oh, wait. I think the superintendent's going to take over for a second.
Thank you. I'll let everyone take their seat, and we'll get started with some recognitions before we have our delegates for this evening. It is my honor this evening to recognize the service, the leadership of 3 of our Board of Commissioners who given their time, their talent, and resources to ensure that IPS is a better place and ensure that we best serve our students and families. So as I call your name, we ask that you come forward to receive some gifts, and I also would like to make brief remarks to each commissioner. I would like to begin by asking Commissioner Andrea White to please come to the podium, please. Commissioner Andrea White, Samantha, I will be forever grateful for the opportunity given by you and the entire Board of Commissioners to serve Indianapolis Public Schools. On behalf of the students and families of Indianapolis Public Schools, we're grateful for your service and we appreciate your leadership. We have tokens of appreciation. Again, we thank you for your service. Next, we have the one and only Dr. Michael Brown. We ask that you come forward, please, sir, to be recognized. And as Dr. Brown comes down, I refer to him as the historian because he often reminds me of his history in the district and what's taken place. But I believe what's more even historic about his ability to recall what's happened in the district is his service for Indianapolis Public Schools over many years. You've been a dedicated servant. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to serve the students and families of Indianapolis Public Schools. On behalf of the students and families, we appreciate your leadership, we appreciate your service and all that you've done to ensure that IPS is a better place for us all. Thank you, sir, for your service. I didn't get no kiss? Oh, no, sir. We also have, we ask that our President, Commissioner Annie Roof, would you please come forward? Again, thank you, Commissioner Roof, for the opportunity to serve the students and families of Indianapolis Public Schools. Be forever grateful for the opportunity given. We thank you for your leadership and your service. We appreciate all that you've done as a commissioner and the tough job of being president. It hasn't always been easy, but through your leadership, we made tremendous stride, and we're extremely grateful for your service. For that, we have our presidential gavel. And we also have the gifts for you. There we go. Thank you for this. This concludes the recognitions for this evening from the administration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the recognition. Moving on to section 2.03, we're moving into the delegation section this evening. When I call your name, just come to the podium. We will set a timer of 3 minutes. We don't like to cut people off, but we do have about 16 people signed up tonight. So if we're all here, that kind of makes a longer evening. So when the buzzer goes off, can you just wrap up what you're saying? And we would appreciate it, please. We do have several delegates signed up regarding the key proposal and the broader proposal. The administration has withdrawn the recommendation at this time. However, if you would still like to speak, we would still appreciate you to do so if you'd like to. First person on the list we have is Rudolph Holyman, representing himself regarding Key Learning Center. Okay. Second on the list we have is, and if I mispronounce your name, I apologize, Chelena Meadows, representing herself regarding Broderpool.
Good evening. I'm Chelena Meadows. I'm currently a sophomore at Broderpool. I've been there since 7th grade and enjoyed every second of it. I used to be a shy girl. You couldn't get me in front of a camera if you asked me. Now I don't mind speaking in front of a crowd. I'm an anchor for a newscast. I've learned multiple skills being in the media magnet at Broderpool. From running teleprompter to audio operator to being on camera, I've seen the growth in myself over the years here. If it wasn't for my media communications teacher, Ms. Shantz and Ms. Mazzola, I probably wouldn't have the leadership skills I've developed. The media magnet at Broderpool has not only created character, but has made us a family. Working with real professional equipment, editing tools, is amazing to know I have the advantage others do not have. I have a good relationship with my teachers. I hate to lose those connections. Changing schools will feel like you're repeating your freshman year all over again. That's why most people spend their middle school years transferring to different magnet schools to figure out what they want to continue in high school and in college. Moving is not only uncomfortable, but it's confusing in a new environment. I plan on going to Indiana State University, or IEPY, for media communications broadcasting. Because the magnet at Broderpool has prepared me with the skills I need to succeed, I have a ton of experience under my belt from sports games, ballet shows, musical concerts, theater plays, art contests, and putting together different promos for a magnet director. It has all played a part. The media magnet at Broad Ripple has been the backbone for the rest of the school, and I hate to see the school fall apart without us. I am proud to be a Ripple Rocket. There's no other place I see myself.
Thank you. Next, we have Brandon Edenfield representing himself regarding key learning.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Edenfield, and I'm in the 9th grade at Key Learning Community. Thank you for your opportunity to make my voice heard. I am here tonight to voice my opinions of closing down Key. I don't want to see Key closed down. I have had the opportunity to go to another school this year. I was being recruited by Tech to play varsity football. What teenage boy doesn't dream of making a big name for himself in football? But to me, staying at Key was more important. I know I would have struggled and fell through the cracks at Tech. The beginning of this school year has been rough. Both of my grandparents have become very ill, and starting high school has been a little overwhelming. But the teachers, principal, and staff at Key has been giving me the support and confidence I need to succeed. They are not going to let me fail. They set up tests and give me the extra work to bring up my grade and get the credits I need. Let me tell you how Key is unique from every other school. I am just one of more than 400 students at Key, but I am important. We can ask to put on events such as a talent show, a school dance, etc. At what other school can we ask to do something special and teachers help fund it? I like the fact that we have small classrooms and we get to know the teachers on a personal level. Our graduation percentage is good also. In 2012, we had 100% of the seniors graduate, and in 2013, we had 96%. With the high school being so small, it gives me a great feeling that I will graduate, not only to make my parents proud, but to make the teachers, principal, and staff proud of me also. I feel if Key closes down, I won't make it. I know I will struggle if I go to a school with bigger classes. I have already had that experience, and it's not for me. I know that we have a very small attendance in the high school, but think of the students who needs a school and classes like this. We have very limited options for other schools, plus if we do get another magnet program to switch to, do we have to worry about losing it in a few years also? I just don't see myself succeeding at any other school but Key. In conclusion, I'm here to tell you tonight to not close Key down. Please just give us another location and keep the Key legacy going. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Jerry Thomas representing himself regarding Key Learning.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Thomas II, and I am in grade 12 at Key Learning Community. Thank you for your opportunity to make my voice heard. I am here tonight to support Key in hopes that the school board doesn't vote to shut down the school. Since I've been in high school at Key, we have grown from an F school to a C school. I attend Key because of unique leadership opportunities, small class sizes that ensures more in-depth one-on-one time with teachers, and this great apprenticeship program for seniors like me. I love Key because the school is basically a community and has become a second family to me. I love Key. Basically. Key is a great school because the interaction with teachers is easy and stable. The staff truly care for its students and are willing to help from schoolwork to life questions. The teachers and principal at Key has impacted my life by helping shape me into the man that I strive to be one day. They have been there for me through the ups and downs over the last 10 years of my life. As I continue to learn how to become not just a great student, but a great man, and I believe the staff at Key has done a beautiful job of showing me the door. Key is different than most schools because of their sense of community within that is the norm, and that Key had always strived this stuff on since day one. If the program at Key is closed, then the school board will be breaking up a family that I'm proud to has been a part of since the 5th grade. Hundreds of families will be forced to move their kids away from a situation from which they wanted their child to be a part of Key in the first place. Even the kids themselves could tell you that they like Key and hate for it to close down. Now, if the decision to close down Key isn't because of academics, then I believe this is a huge black eye to the school board, to no disrespect to anyone here. But this is the same as that school they've been fighting for years to keep itself off from an F school, and we are officially a C school right now. And now I'm here tonight to urge you not to close down a school that had meant more to me than I even thought. As a senior, this decision does not affect me, but I believe Key has a bright future and deserves to keep his place in Indianapolis public schools. In conclusion, I'm here tonight to tell you not to close down Key Learning Community. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next, we have Thomas Edenfield, representing the Key students regarding Key Learning.
My name is Thomas Enfield. I am in 2nd grade. At Key Learning Community, I'm here tonight hoping to save Key from being closed down. I told you last week how I was picked on at my last school, and I felt like my teachers didn't care, but at Key, not only does the teachers and staff care about us and believe in us, but so do the older kids. Because they all believe in us, I believe in myself. Key is where I want to stay and grow. This is where I want to finish school. The teachers, staff, and students has become like family to me. If you close Key, I will have to go back to my old school, and I don't want to be there or anywhere else. Please keep Key how it is. Thank you for listening to me speak.
Thank you, Thomas. Next, we have Jenna Phillips, representing herself and fellow students regarding Key Learning School. Is Jenna here? Nope. Then we'll move on to Jared Kilgore, representing himself and Broderpool students.
Hello, parents, teachers, and students, and members of the board. My name is Jared Kilgore, and I'm a freshman at Broderpool High School. My magnet at Broderpool is theater, and I aspire to be an actor and a filmmaker. More specifically, I aspire to be a director, as do many other students at Broderpool. With the Media Magnet at Broderpool, it has been made possible for others, as well as myself, to start in our pursuit of our dreams. The Media Magnet has especially helped me because I'm currently shooting, producing, and directing my very first film. Without media, my vision could never properly be seen. The Media Magnet gives us a chance to see behind the scenes and know what it's like. It shows that we can be more productive as actors, as well as students of the Media Magnet. It seems small now, but I see the bigger picture in keeping the Media Magnet at Broderpool. I see a different way of entertainment. Often people plan to become professional athletes, dancers, actors, musicians, reporters, and even vocalists, and the list only gets longer. The Media Magnet provides a platform for artists of all kinds at Broad Ripple. In all reality, the Media Magnet is a part of the foundation of Broad Ripple, not just in theater, but in all of the magnets. The Media Magnet also helps the humanities program because of students being taped with various humanities projects as learning devices in presentation and creativity. Also, media communications provides us with the means to advertise our school and broadcast the arts. In other words, they provide, once again, a platform. In my opinion, Broad Ripple is so much more than just a school. It is a family of all the arts, and media is a part of our family. They are the balance, the foundation, and the heart of Ripple. So I say thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Jared. Next, we have Janae Bakeman, representing herself and fellow students regarding Broad Ripple Media Magnet.
Good evening. My name is Janae Bakeman, and I am a junior at Broad Ripple Magnet High School. Last week, I spoke and attended the board meeting and received information on the potential changes at Broad Ripple. Today, I am speaking again, still pleading for you to rethink your plan on moving the Media Magnet from Broad Ripple to Arsenal Tech. I've listened to your plans and what you think may and may not help for our schools and our students. However, speaking on the behalf of many students, this change is not helpful. Once you decide to move this program, you will notice that not many students will move to Arsenal Tech. Many of us are very loyal to Broad Ripple. If you make this change, many of these students have already said they would either stay at Broad Ripple or they would go to a township school. One thing I have noticed throughout this whole situation is this. I have never seen any one of you on the board in any of our classes. And I encourage you to do so. If you were to take one step into my class at the end of the day and to take even one glance at our productions, I promise you would be very impressed. However, I have never seen anyone from Arsenal Tech nor anyone from the Board of Education step into our classroom. I heard you speak on the internships and opportunities that are waiting at Tech. Yet one woman on the board was correct when she said that IPS is continually taking from Broad Ripple. I was able to step foot in CERT, the broadcasting station that worked with Broad Ripple. I was lucky to be there, especially since this was also taken from us. Now students will not get the chance to have this experience. You spoke of possible career training and internships. You've already taken away from me an internship that I would have had at CERT. Many people were making plans for me and our program. They taught us the ins and outs, and they were teaching us all that we needed to know. I also heard you speak on focusing more on the visual and performing arts at Broad Ripple. Maybe you haven't noticed that the media is a large part of visual arts. There are graphics, pictures, and so much more that is included in today's definition of visual arts. The other magnets at Broad Ripple rely on the Media Magnet as well. We record the performance shows and provide feedback to the classes. They come to us to get the clear picture of the things that they need. We've had students who are not in the Media Magnet come to us before and after school in need of our help. As far as I have seen, so much has been taken from Broad Ripple. The planetarium, radio, CERT, why not help Broad Ripple with the money and people that Tech already has enough of? Why must you take more? The more you take, the more doomed Broad Ripple will be. Next to be another empty building that has no use. Instead of taking, help us to thrive even more. Stand in one of Mrs. Shant's 10th period production classes. I promise you will not be so disappointed. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next, we have Rudolph Holyman Jr., representing students of Key. Is he here this evening? No? Okay. Before I move on, I just want to point out that our students are doing a fantastic job tonight. They are. It is not an easy thing to do to stand up here and speak. And last week, several of them were here. We've recognized several of them, but this week they have 5 cameras on them. And they're just doing beautiful, and their emotion, to come and speak about something so emotional is hard, and I'm very proud of them tonight. Next, then on the agenda, we're still on delegates. We have Marlon Lewin from the Phelan Leadership Academy regarding innovation schools.
you guys change the agenda, are we still allowed to speak on behalf of the fellowship?
You still have the 3 minutes on the delegate, and then when we get to this section, and if we need questions, we can ask you then.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Well, we did share a 32-page document with the board. I know everyone had opportunity to review that. But just really quick, we just really want to touch upon that. We're just honored for this opportunity, Earl and I, to really serve the IPS public school. So some things we're going to speak about briefly is what makes PLA unique and how can we serve, and what we'll do is serve within this fellowship. Number one, we believe great teachers, we need great teachers in each classroom. So we have a very robust and very rigorous multi-stage screening process for all our candidates. What that means is this: we want to get the best teachers and candidates in front of our scholars to move academic achievement. And secondly, we also look at extended learning opportunities. For example, our potential model, as you read in the 32-page proposal, we really look at adding an additional 35 days of academics for all our scholars in PLA. And the third part I will speak on before Earl comes up to speak briefly is just our commitment to parent engagement, right? Ensuring that we can engage the community, engage the scholars, and engage everyone around us to really serve at a really high level. We'll look forward to those questions, but I'll also invite Earl, our CEO of Felon Leadership Academy, to come and speak briefly.
Thank you.
Good evening. It's great to be here as well. As you know, in some of our schools, we have 0% of 6th graders, 5th graders, and other grades passing the I-STEP. Their futures and the opportunities that are going to be available for them are abysmal. We feel like the model that Marlon described, both with the educators, the right educators, 2 teachers per class, the extended learning time, combined with parental engagement, and then the blended learning piece. And blended learning, for those of you who don't know, is just a use of technology innovatively as one learning station in the classroom. It allows a teacher to teach for 30 minutes, a group of 27 scholars, but then you break down the group into 3 groups of 8 or 9, 8 working with the teacher for 30 minutes, 8 working with the TA for 30 minutes, and then 8 working on self-paced software. That means most children in language arts and in mathematics spend their time in a small group getting personalized instruction that will enable them to excel. We believe that this model, in addition to the work that we've been able to do with the Innovation Fellowship, we've been able to line up already new partners who will be part of our cradle to career approach to make sure that children right from prenatal through their early years, when they arrive in school, have all the supports that they need to be successful. What we've seen in terms of results at PLA when this model has been implemented is that our kindergartners went from 3% on track in math to 99% proficient and advanced at the end of the year. Our entire school went from 56% on track in language arts and math to 92% proficient and advanced. That's the future that we want for children. That's the future we believe we can deliver at the Innovation School, and we thank you for the opportunity to take one of our historically underperforming schools and turn it around, not only for IPS, but most significantly for the future of our children, for the future of our community and our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Brittany Mazzola regarding the Media Magnet representing Broad Ripple High School.
All right, sorry if my statement has to be adjusted a little bit. My name is Miss Brittany Mazzola, and I'm here today to represent the Broad Ripple Media Magnet. I know some of you have probably already made up your mind, but I hope I can say a few things to help change your mind or at least clarify a few of the fallacies from last Tuesday's board meeting. I'm disappointed in the lack of research that's happened for Broad Ripple. I thought we were tabled so the board could gather information, and still we were not contacted. Let's go over a few things I wish I could have said last week while I was sitting in my chair. First, the information about the classes we offer was incorrect. Neither Michelle Shantz nor I teach any core classes. We only teach magnet classes. I teach journalism, media law and ethics, publications, middle school mass media. We teach nothing else. I am licensed to teach English, and I have my administrative license, and that might have been where the confusion came in. I'm not sure, but we only teach those. Second, we have not been told about staffing next year. Dr. Farabee said that Mr. Akers had been notified. I'm not sure. If so, the memo did not get to us. Our careers are being dictated without consulting us. That's what's very frustrating. Last week, we talked all about tech, going as far as calling tech a superior program. He said that we don't have the same level of success, but what is that based on? Nobody's come to see my classes and what they can do. I've not been asked for samples of student work. I've not been observed by the board. I don't know how programs can be compared when there's very little research on us. Some members of the boards didn't even know what magnets we offer or how many students we have enrolled. I'm also concerned that the grants are what's driving this decision. You want to make tech the powerhouse media magnet, but how can we run a magnet with one person? If you want to take on internships, dual credit, partnerships, and more programs, you will need more teachers there. When you have 5 or 6 preps a day, like we do, there's barely enough time in the day to get the necessities done, let alone all of the other things that are asked of the magnet. If staffing only follows the students, as we were told last week, then we won't have jobs available to us at Tech next year. Our students do not want to go to Tech. I've talked to the kids, and we're going to lose very few. I hope this clarifies a few of the inaccuracies from last week, and I really hope you're hearing what the magnet is saying. It feels like it's take and take from us, and you're taking from the school and my students and me. Where does it end? So, thank you.
Next, we have Michelle Ware-Shantz, representing the media students regarding the move.
Good evening, Dr. Farabee and ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Michelle Shantz, and I am one of the Media Magnet teachers at Broad Ripple. I have been with this program at Broad Ripple since 2008. At that time, there were 5 faculty members and an advisory board made up of media instructors and professionals. Today, our program has 2 staff members, and we are still working hard, training our students, and providing opportunities that will serve them well at the college level. I have students who are video editing at a higher level than first and second year college students. My television classes can produce a TV show in our studio without teacher supervision. As the focus for our magnet has changed year to year, our students have kept up with each task that has been placed before them. We have produced PSAs for the district that aired on local stations. My students have created news stories that have appeared on PBS NewsHour website. We videotape classes for teachers and student teachers. Students have won contests, one receiving the opportunity to produce a PSA with Bright House Network. We develop video promos used by our magnet coordinator for student recruitment. Tomorrow, my students will videotape the Nutcracker, providing playback for the dancers to evaluate. Students stay after school daily to videotape football, basketball, and other sports, as well as after-school activities. DVDs are created for coaches to review with their teams. The good part about our magnet is that we are a part of all the other magnets, and we are valuable to them. We are an important part of the performing arts magnet because music, dance, and theater students use our media students to create CDs and DVDs to pursue enrollment in colleges and universities. Now, I realize that change is always necessary for improvement and growth. And whatever the board decides, as professionals, we will comply. But I would, however, like to leave you with a possible win-win situation that I would like for you to consider. What if the Media Magnet at Broad Ripple were allowed to exist as a middle school program, which would feed into the program at Tech? The current high school students could remain in the program at Broad Ripple, graduating from a school that they call home. The middle school students that audition for that program from this point on know that they will need to continue their Media Magnet experience later on at Tech. We would work with Tech to provide well-trained middle school media students for study at a higher level at Tech. This consideration would mean that Broad Ripple would not lose such a valuable program, and Tech would gain a support system that would provide them with students ready for an exciting next level of study. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Alan Schoff, representing himself regarding Key Learning.
Good evening. My name is Alan Schoff, and I'm a parent at the Key Learning Community. And I'm here tonight. I don't really want to be here tonight, but I'm here tonight primarily because of the closure of Key Learning has been miscommunicated or not communicated to the most important stakeholders, and that is the families who are going to be disrupted through all of this. Even extending it another year is a plan that's going to start the wheels coming off of the school, if you will. You know, teachers will need to find new jobs. That will start earlier. No, they're not going to wait till the end of the whole closure of the school. You're really killing a whole program this early. The day this is voted on is the day that the program starts to dissolve. The reason I'm here is because I was concerned about the communication, how we found out. I'm concerned about the misinformation that was here at the last meeting, claiming that the school had grade issues, which wasn't really the case. Also, I heard an argument that there's less interest in the program, and really the district is complicit in that by bouncing the school around from location to location the last few years. You know, this really only 2 years ago put together a new team over there, and it takes a little time to build. So I would come up with an alternative plan for you here that I would like to see maybe considered, because I haven't heard any options. I have no communication as to really why this is going on. You know, let's secure a location for this program. This is a storied program that's brought a lot of positive image to this district and can continue to do so. If the team building that's going on right now can continue, if we can, you know, relocate as a family that we are, and carry on with the options that this district has, it's one of the gems in the magnet program. So I would say let's secure a location for the program. Let's allow this team building to go on, and let's be proud of what the school has accomplished and what this school can accomplish, what this program can accomplish for the district. Thank you.
Next, we have Amy Hardesty, representing Key students regarding the Key Learning Community.
Good evening, Commissioners and Dr. Farabee. I thank you again for this opportunity to speak to you for the third time on behalf of the Key Learning Community Organization. I understand the proposal has been removed from consideration, but I'll take my 3 minutes since I'm here. I wanted to, first of all, say I'm very appreciative of the discussion that occurred last week about win-win solutions and possible alternatives instead of closing our school. I just wanted to address 2 topics that came up last week. The first would be enrollment and the alleged declining interest in our magnet program. That's not a completely accurate statement, which enrollment data from the Department of Education's Compass website will support. It is true that enrollment at our high school is significantly lower than some of the other district programs. However, enrollment in grades K through 8 is either equal to or greater than other magnet programs in the district. In the 2012-13 school year, we had 320 students enrolled K through 8. In 13-14, we had 378. This year, we have 402. Just to compare, in the 13-14 school year, George Washington Carver, a Montessori K through 8, had 276 students enrolled. Francis W. Parker had 294, CFI 2 had 366, and CFI 84 had 365. In that same school year, we had 378. So as you can see, the data shows that enrollment K through 8 is growing. Since Mrs. Delaski joined our team in 2012, we've grown at those levels, and any enrollment decline prior to that really needs to be considered relative to the churn that was occurring in the school at the time, and the former district leadership's culpability in that churn. Our staff turnover was significant. Our former principal did not provide strong strategic leadership, and our teachers had to re-interview for their jobs 2 or 3 times in just as many years. But since becoming our leader, Mrs. Delaski has placed significant emphasis on staff selection, retention, and development. This is very obvious when you come to our school and you see the strong relationships between our teachers, Mrs. Delaski, our students, and parents. It's those strong relationships that keep our community going and growing strong. One other topic, last week Commissioner Roof asked the question if there would be other similar magnet options for the 400 students potentially displaced. I would like to say I don't believe that that's true. The other magnet programs most similar to ours, although not identical, are the Montessori, CFIs, or Reggio Butler Lab School. Now, the Montessori schools don't admit students after grade 2 unless you can show proof that you've been a Montessori student. So that rules out our students 3 through 8. The Butler Lab School only goes up to grade 4 this year. It might go to 5 next year. That would leave only the CFIs. CFI 2 and 84 are routinely waitlisted. So we could potentially have hundreds of students without a magnet option to continue their success. Now, I know that this proposal's been taken off the table. Like 20 seconds. I don't know what this means for our school. I don't know if it means that it's off the table completely or if alternative options are being explored. I would like to respectfully request that if alternative options are being explored, that the district leadership engage the stakeholders in the problem-solving process. You've heard from a lot of our students and parents over the last 3 weeks. That should tell you that we are committed to making a strong community, and I, for one, would much rather be part of the problem-solution developing team than coming back here 6 months trying to convince you to change your mind. Thank you.
Thank you. The last delegate of the evening we have is Roseanne Young, representing the students in the magnet redesign.
Good evening to the board and Dr. Farabee. I meet with you once again. I like to commend the students from Broad Ripple and Key Learning. I wish I could speak as well as they do. So my hats are off to them. I basically, the more I've learned about Key since this proposal has been brought up, the more I cannot understand why you would want to close their school. The enrollment for K through 8, from what I understand, there are parents waiting to get into that school. The high school is a little under, but that's because of their unique program. I would like for you to study that and for Key to study that and see if they can bring that enrollment up and get more students in, because I think there's students that necessarily don't want to play football, that are more concerned about their education. So I think Key is a good school for them. The other point that I would like to bring up, in all the schools, what I have heard is that everybody has felt disrespected by this school. We don't feel like we've been included. A lack of respect leads to disrespect, and once you do that, then the slightest provocation brings outrage. We get angry, and then when we're angry, we lose mutual respect for each other, and we can no longer solve our problems. I'll tell you right now, parents put a lot of consideration into the choice that they make for their kids' education. Right now, people are angry. We're scared, we're frustrated, but we want to believe that you are on our side. So I ask you to be a lot of consideration as you choose to make your decisions on Key Learning and Broad Ripple. I think they both deserve their program. And I would also like to thank commissioners that this is their last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all our delegates. You did a great job tonight. Thank you. Next on the agenda then, we're moving to 2.05, the racial equity training information.
Thank you, Commissioner Roof. This is a follow-up item in response to a discussion we had briefly at our briefing session recently, just outlining the district's commitment to elevating racial equity and training across the district. I'll turn it over to Dr. LeGrand, who will introduce our presenters for this evening. I'll also remind commissioners, we did discuss the potential of not only expanding this training opportunity, but perhaps drafting a resolution of policy around the district's stance on racial equity.
Thank you. Good evening. Two of the participants or the trainers from the Racial Equity Institute are here to share in the presentation that we included in board documents, and also available to answer your questions about their proposal, their history of work in Indianapolis, and their plans or suggestions on how they can assist us in our work here.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Farabee, Board President, and Commissioners. My name is Dina Hayes-Green. I'm here with my colleague Suzanne Plissick, and we're co-directors of the Racial Equity Institute. We're based in Greensboro, North Carolina, where we live, but we work all over the country. We work with systems, institutions, organizations, agencies, and individuals addressing systemic and structural racism, working with systems and leaders who are really curious and interested in why, after numerous programs, financial resources allocated to eliminating inequity, why the gaps are actually widening. We've been here before, had the fortunate opportunity of working with another anti-racist organization here in Indianapolis, and for about 4 or 5 years. And so we've been working with the court systems, with child advocates, with guardian ad litems, with law enforcement, with other townships and individuals. And this is a wonderful opportunity to now bridge that relationship to help strengthen the network here, because we believe that this is really cross-systems work. Our analysis is based on a couple of approaches. One of those is that we don't address race and racism in regards to race relations, that a lot of people in our society measure our racial progress by how we're getting along. We believe that there's a fair amount, an increased amount of positive cross-racial interaction. But our institutional inequities by race have actually widened in the last 50 years. So we come at it with a structural approach. So the first thing that we look at is that our system, let's see, here we go. So what we look at is that racial inequity is evident in all of our major systems, but we call it something different. That puts us at a structural disadvantage. So in education, we call racial inequity the achievement gap. The achievement gap simply looks at on all of those ways in which we measure educational experiences, whether it's overall achievement, it could be suspension and discipline, it could be exceptional children, it could be gifted and talented, it could be graduation rates, dropout rates, and SAT scores. In all of those categories, what we see across the nation is students of color, particularly African Americans, have the worst outcomes. White students have better outcomes collectively. In our health and human services system, we call racial inequity disproportionality. It looks at the same thing. What happens to families of color, children of color, and white children and white families when they enter our health and human services system? Very similar outcomes. In our judicial system, we talk about overrepresentation or the disproportionate minority contact in our criminal justice system. In our healthcare system, it's called racial and ethnic disparities in healthcare. So you've got the same dynamic, the same pathology, the same sequence and patterns in all of our institutions across the country. That points to something systemic and cultural. We don't believe people wake up in the morning, not law enforcement officers, not teachers, nurses, or social workers, and decide that they're going to treat families, children, defendants, patients, clients of color differently. But our statistics show that that's happening anyway, and we think that it's really critical to take a deeper dive in that. We also believe that our systems contribute significantly to disparities. We believe that people are vulnerable for a lot of reasons. Poor, they're disabled, they're lacking resources, but we believe they become at risk when they enter our systems. And so one of the trajectories that we look at in our health and human service system, white families and families of color, or families of color, are no more likely to neglect and abuse their children than white families. They are more likely to be referred for an investigation. Our school systems are a mandatory reporter, and so they play a huge role in contacting Health and Human Services in regards to questions about neglect or abuse. Once in that system, so that disparity, that inequity happens outside that system because they don't solicit clients. Those calls come from human service personnel, from educators, from other social workers, from physicians, from law enforcement. But once they're inside that system, something begins to happen. So when families of color and white families enter our Health and Human Service system, they have different outcomes by race. Families of color are less likely to have family reunification efforts made. They're more likely to be institutionalized, put in foster homes, group homes, and their parents are more likely to have efforts for their parental rights to be terminated. So we can look at that trajectory in all of our systems. The third approach is that these inequities in our systems are concentrated around people of color. And I think over the last decade or two, studies, research, data gathering has shown us that when we control for all of the reasons that people say are the cause for disparities, race is the indicator of outcomes. So I want to talk to you a little about in education. I'm a Board of Education member as well. I'm on the Board of Education in Guilford County in Greensboro, North Carolina, and have been since 2002. I do presentations for our school district, for regional superintendents, for principals, and for other department administrators. And I always ask the question, who's been here the longest? Who's been here, who's newest? So we have an employee that may have just recently started. We may have an employee that's been there for 42 years. And I ask them, have you ever been in this district at a time where we didn't have an achievement gap that had this same pattern? And no one has ever said that they haven't been. That means that there's a culture. That's just always how things have been. That's not how people want them to be. We don't think that that's what people intend that to be. We think people intend the opposite, and that they're struggling and very frustrated and disappointed that after all of their hard work, that these are still the outcomes. So when we look at our educational system, when we look at advanced placement courses, and one of our approaches is that we disaggregate data by a number of things, by race, socioeconomic status, and gender, and then we cross-analyze that data, and some things are revealed once that happens. So what we find across the country, SAT scores, African American students who come from households where the income is between $60,000 and $200,000 have lower SAT scores than white students who come from households where the annual income is between $20,000 and $40,000. We saw recently, when we look at our exceptional children's data, students with disabilities, white students with disabilities, that there's the narrowest gap in students with disabilities is between white students with disabilities and black students without disabilities. So we are able to go through our systems, infant mortality, maternal and child health. White women who are lacking a high school diploma, they've either dropped out or they haven't graduated, have better birth outcomes than black women who are doctors and lawyers. So we can go through all of our systems. The Break-in School Rules report that came out in Texas from the Council of State Governments in Texas in 2011, they followed nearly 1 million students from 7th grade to 12th grade. They examined nearly 6 million school records. They controlled for over 80 variables. They looked at whether or not it was a Title I school. They looked at whether or not the parents had different levels of education. They controlled for kids who have been held back. They controlled for socioeconomic status. And race was the indicator of their outcomes. So we believe that it is absolutely necessary, if race is present in your outcomes, then an analysis of race has to be part of every intervention, from literacy to gangs. And if it is not, it cannot be effective nor sustained for that particular group. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Suzanne to just walk us a little bit through some of the components of this proposal.
This is a recommended, we lost your fan, that's not a good thing. This is a recommended structure and timeline for the Indianapolis Public Schools for a racial equity initiative. And this is consistent with what we've done with other institutions. We would first recommend that an equity team be created to move the work system-wide, the racial equity work. And this team would be trained in a racial equity analysis. We have 2 trainings, phase 1 that we have done here in this school system 3 times already. Am I too Okay. And a phase 2 that brings a broader analysis that includes not only individual but institutional and structural and cultural components. We also would do a racial equity organizational development training for this team. The team would be charged with organizational support to many areas of the IPS. This team would be housed, we would recommend, under your diversity department, and with our assistance, develop an equity assessment tool for schools, plan for the use of this assessment, and for individual school training. This initial stage of training the team, we would anticipate being about 4 months in duration. Part of the equity team planning would include choosing 10 pilot schools to train and guide in becoming racially equitable schools. REI would provide each selected school with 3 phase 1, that's our foundation racial equity training. Each training should include, we believe, parents and community partners. REI would guide the equity team in creating in-school structures to hold the equity work, and the work in school would include organizational development and racially equitable classroom practice. We would recommend phase 1 training for all pilot schools to take place over an 8 to 9 month period of time. REI would also recommend leadership from pilot schools and selected community members and parents attend a phase 2 training. We'd recommend actually doing 2 phase 2 trainings. We would also recommend 2 youth trainings that would be youth leadership from the pilot schools. We would provide, in partnership with the equity team, 2 consultations and technical assistance to the leadership of the pilot schools. Part of this work will actually be to train the team to train and do consultations and technical assistance with your schools. The entire scope of work would cover about a year and a half. This proposal is based on a phased approach to training and consultation. The total cost and recommendations for the coming year and a half approximately. The budget does not include, however, minor material costs such as the printing of workbooks, flip charts, etc. And it does not include travel and lodging for our trainers. But you see as you keep going through, the budget broken down in 3 basic areas, which is the equity training cost, the pilot school training cost, and the youth leadership training. You want to ask for questions?
So we want to open up the presentation now if you have any questions for us.
I would also like to add that we have over 20 participants in the audience that have already been a part of this training that can speak to some of the benefits as well, in addition to the information that's been presented this evening.
And then maybe I missed this. How will the 10 pilot schools be selected?
Normally, we will work with the administration to talk about different models of doing that. You can, get your control groups, whether they're the schools that have the highest discipline outcomes, schools that have the lowest literacy rates, and so we would kind of work with the administrators to look at the best model for identifying the pilot schools.
And it can be elementary schools, middle schools, high schools?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Mhm.
K-8,
Mhm.
whatever?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Commissioner Odle?
You mentioned that you've done training here before,
Yes. Mhm.
and what did that entail?
Are you talking about with IPS or in Indianapolis?
IPS.
We've done the foundational training, the 2-day racial equity training.
For who?
Phase 1.
For who?
The participants were the academic team as well as the members of PRD. All of CLT was invited, members from Scott's team and as well as Paul's team. Principals were invited last summer as well.
Can I continue on? I think this is really important. And given the makeup of our school district, the disparate outcomes that we already know exist. I mean, we don't have to do more research. We know we have a problem. My concern is whether this is investing enough, why do we have to pilot it? If you've done it and you know what works and doesn't work, why aren't we doing a more comprehensive program that touches every employee, every school, every fiber of the district? It seems like we're tiptoeing into what we know is a significant problem.
One thing that I'd like to add is that for our advanced ed accreditation that took place about 5 years ago, they mentioned the same thing, that we needed to create a process and a policy, not really a policy, I'm sorry, but a process so that cultural competency is understood and racial equity is addressed district-wide. So they would echo your comments of making it bigger than what we see now.
And to your point, we really like to stress this is such an introduction. We are coming in and we're talking about helping people become aware of the implicit associations that they have around race. Because in this country, when we're talking about race and racism, we're not even talking about the same thing. Even those that feel like they're part of the choir, people that feel like they're invested in this work and committed to this work, still come into the room with many, many different definitions, experiences, and opinions around race. And so that's one of the first things that we have to bring to the table is a shared common definition and analysis of that. And so this is a first step.
Well, I understand that, but I guess I just don't understand. It's almost like saying, well, we know what the best thing to do is, but we're going to give it to about 25% of the kids. And it just doesn't make sense to me.
So I think we can definitely go back and look at resources that could be allocated to expanding this work, but we want to make sure that we got started sooner rather than later based on the favorable responses we've already received from individuals that participated. I also think the equity team is a critical step in terms of creating a body in our organization that can also help facilitate the work across the district in addition to the training that will be provided. But the point well taken, and that's something that we can explore the feasibility on.
So I think the issue, it gets back to another issue we talked about, is our recruitment. Our staff don't reflect the population that we're serving. And we're never going to be able to deliver until we address that. And so if we don't sort of get on with it, we're going to tiptoe our way into, more problems. I think, especially with the demographics changing of the board going forward, I think we're going to be much more under the scrutiny of the community. So I just encourage the administration and, I trust your judgment on the quality of people that you're selecting, but that let's get on with it. Let's do something that's going to be impactful, whether it's with recruitment of staff, whether it's training of staff, or whether it's who we do business with. We don't reflect the community and who we do business with either. So in all those areas, we're a deficit, and unless we get on with it, we're going to, I think, have a lot more criticism from the community.
Commissioner Hannon.
I just wanted to, I certainly echo what Sam is saying, and I wanted to think about how we as board members might be able to plug in either by receiving some of the training or, if we're at the level of the vision setting for the district, then I would want to be able to speak the same language and to know, to really be invested in this as it's such an important sort of core part of our work.
And if I may say that, again, to your point, that racial equity is not an add-on, it's not an initiative, it's not a program. It is how you work all the time. It's how you do your work all the time. And that it gets integrated and embedded across the district, that it's around curriculum and instruction, academic services, student services, facilities, construction, our discipline, and school resource officers, or the law enforcement component that you have here. And so this is a district-wide analysis and component to that. And I think we'll talk with Superintendent Farabee and the administration to talk about exactly, I think that you've had a cross-section of folks from the different departments in the school system attend already.
Commissioner Cosby.
I think Commissioner Odle had it spot on, but I would like to find out the connection. I'd like to know how this particular organization was selected and if other organizations were considered. I think part of equitable access to opportunity is that we open it up to everyone, and I'm a little concerned about how that process looks as we select folks that we partner with.
So this organization was chosen collaboratively between myself and Pat Payne. She and I both have had experiences with the Racial Equity Institute, and as you can tell from Ms. Payne's letter, that she fully supports our initiative. And so when even before getting here, I heard about Ms. Payne, her great work around diversity. And so in conversations along the way, we discussed what we can do in IPS.
How many folks, how many organizations did you talk to?
How many organizations did I talk to about this work?
You and Pat Payne.
Won't speak for how many she's talked to and the number of resources she's aware of, but she and I specifically talked about Racial Equity Institute.
Okay, so is there a process? So as I understand it, an RFP is a process that we use as a district to make sure that we get, the best deal. And I'd like some clarity around when that process is used. Like, when do we bid things out? When do we look at multiple contracts? How does that work? Because I don't hear that as being a part of this process.
I think I'll refer to Paul and he can give some guidance on how we've done that in the district.
That depends on the particular situation, Commissioner Cosby. Typically, you go out for a proposal or a quote when there are a number of organizations that provide a similar service. That's typically when we use that process, because there is a continuity, I guess, in the services among the particular participants. Generally, when you have fewer participants in a particular area, it's not something we pursue. I can't speak to the number of participants in this area, but that's the general process.
Okay, Commissioner Hannon.
Just to clarify, Paul, this falls under professional services, correct, which we typically don't bid?
Yes, that's true. So it's not a formal bid, but it does mean we could still, in a professional service, do proposals and quotes. Yes.
Commissioner Odle.
Yeah, and I wanted to clarify, I think at least I, as a board member, I trust management to select the contractors they want to work with, that fit with what they're trying to accomplish. As a board member, though, I do want to make sure we're investing enough in the goals we're trying to achieve, and that's what I'm questioning, just are we investing enough to get the result that we all want? And if we need to, as a board, figure out a way to get more resources so we can do that, then I want management to tell us that. But I don't want us to, sort of tiptoe into issues that are really important to the future of our kids and how well they're going to be succeeding.
I think there was some confusion on the agenda this evening, but this is an item that the administration is looking for a vote on this evening. Is this funding coming from the general fund? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Excuse me, Dr. Fairby, is coming from Title I.
I'm sorry, Title I.
It's coming from Title I.
So, are we asking to make a?
We are, so I'm going to, in fairness to the Phelan group, because we didn't realize this at the beginning, that this is something we're also going to be voting on. I'd like to offer them the opportunity to present in this section, if they're still in the room, and if they're not, maybe there's an officer who can find them in the hallway to see if they'd like to bump up as well. Since we're voting on this item, I'd like to be fair. So, with that being said, we're voting on this item. I need a motion.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments in addition to everything else? Commissioner Cosby.
I just would like to say that first of all, it's taken me off guard because it appears that everything that we thought was information is now to be voted on, so apologies for that. But I think this is a very important initiative. I do, however, have concerns about transparency. I know that you can relate as a fellow board member about the opportunities that we give to folks in our own hometown. So no shade intended by my questioning, but just want to make sure that we are, soliciting, other folks and just have a variety of options in front of us before we make decisions.
So if I may say that Suzanne and I both have worked here with another sister anti-racist organization, and we've been able to build a lot of capacity here in the city. And we've been able to bring on a local trainer that lives here in Indianapolis that has facilitated some follow-ups and debriefs. So we do have a trainer that is local here, if that's of any help.
Okay. Commissioner Hannon?
I seconded the motion, but I just have one more question. The concerns or the points raised by Commissioner Odell, and I assume like at some point we'll see a formal contract we're voting to approve moving forward as this was presented. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, and I agree for the record with everything Commissioner Odell said, and he said it well. And I do agree with your concerns as well. For me tonight, if Pat Payne's name is on it, then I'm good to go with it. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you.
Okay, so as we kind of jump around here and give each other all the patience in the world, we'll jump back to 2.04, the IPS PLA Innovation School Proposal, if they're in the room and are ready. Yeah, they're coming.
Are we going to present it again or just vote on it?
I thought we've had information before.
Do we want to open the floor to questions from?
They came to a briefing session, but nobody was here, but, don't know.
My recommendation, commissioners have the materials before you that were shared electronically, and also the materials were presented at one of our committee meetings. So if there are specific questions that commissioners have at this time, I believe that Earl and Marlon are readily available and happy to answer anything, any questions or comments that you might have.
Can I put a motion on the table that we approve the proposal as presented?
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on this item? I would like to state my vote because I feel like I have a lot of respect for you guys, and I will not be supporting this evening, and my mind hasn't changed from the beginning. I felt like this process wasn't, for you guys, wasn't under the fellowship program. I wanted to see you come in under House Bill 1321, and I still would like to see that as a partnership, but under the fellowship program. I've never thought I belonged there, but I just thought I needed to state that. Anyone else? Commissioner Cosby.
I too was a part of the original selection committee for the Mind Trust when the fellowship recipients were being selected. At the time of that selection process, I did state my concern with, along the lines of President Roof, that when we agreed to participate in the Mind Trust Fellowship, we really understood the gist of the program to offer an opportunity to folks that had a great idea but didn't have the mechanisms in place to support that idea. So we were looking for people with an idea, but really just an idea alone. And way back when, I voiced that opinion, and my opinion has not changed either, so I can't support you in this way. However, I will say that I respect what you're doing, I respect your work, and I hope that once you all have some letter grades available, that we can certainly look at potential partnerships at that time.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye. Fail for lack of a majority? Okay.
Was there a roll call, or you have to do a roll? Okay.
So what that was a tied vote, failed for lack of majority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to 2.06, DOE priority schools rated F.
So this is an information item. We're not asking commission to take action on this item. As a part of the requirements with the Indiana Department of Education, we're required to report information on priority schools designated as F in the state accountability system. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. LeGrand to facilitate the required communication.
So it's a requirement that we list for the public our schools that are rated F, and so that's what's appearing on the screen. What we did last month in the month of November was to give an academic update as well as a priority school update, so it lists all of our information. It listed all of our information about our schools and how they were doing, but the state of Indiana requires that we list for the public which schools were rated an F when the report cards were distributed, and so that's just meeting this requirement. What we will do, as we normally do, is to have an update on the priority schools and our overall achievement, and we will provide at that time a correlation between what the Department of Ed considers a priority school, our priority schools, and IPS, and how they're doing thus far. So our requirement now is just to share which schools were labeled as an F for this school year.
No, Commissioner Odle, I'm sorry.
Now, we do have less schools on the list this year, significantly, like 7 or 8 fewer schools.
Yes, what we shared last month in our briefing, last year there were 22 Fs, and this year is 16 Fs. Only 15 schools are listed because Longfellow is no longer a separate school.
Yeah.
So yes, from 22 to 16.
So we ought to, make sure we commend the leadership and staff, for continuing to reduce that number of F schools. But it also points out that's why I voted for the innovation schools proposal, because we do need help. I mean, we need to move these schools faster than the current system is allowing it to do. Every year that we don't, kids are not getting the education they need. So I hope we'll continue to be innovative. But I think that's where we need the help going forward. So I hope we just keep working on it.
I also add to that comment that in addition to significantly reducing the schools that designate as F, many of the schools that have this designation have made strides over this past school year, but have not reached the benchmarks for proficiency, but several schools have realized growth in their performance, so they still have much to celebrate.
Commissioner Cosby.
I just want to piggyback off of Commissioner Odle's comments and provide a little more clarification on some rationale regarding the vote previous. The purpose of the Innovation Network Fellowship was to obviously improve schools that were rated an F. I just wanted to add that another reason that I could not support that particular initiative was because if we're, as a district, looking to improve an F school or improve a D school, we need to use the same metrics that we use to rate a school a D or an F when we select a partner to try to improve that D or an F. So my rationale for that was while Phelan Leadership Academy appears to be on a positive trajectory, does not have enough data at this time because they haven't been in existence long enough to have been assessed with a letter grade. So in my mind, if we're going to work to improve a D or F school, we need to do that with an organization that has a demonstrated track record in which they have been able to prove that they are able to get A's, B's, or even C's. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to section 3, approval of the minutes.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to section 4, report of the treasurer.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to section 5, I'll hand it over to the superintendent.
Madam President, could we take section 5, since we've heard about these before?
We can do
That we'll do section 5.
Yeah, we can just do that by consensus if everyone's all right. It'll have to be 5.01 to 5.06. 5.07 will have to be a roll call. Does everyone consent to that?
The recommendation, based on Commissioner consensus, is that the administration recommends that the Board of Commissioners approve items 5.01, 5.02, 5.03, and 5.04, and 5.05, and 5.06 as presented.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments?
I would just like clarification on 5.05, because I know we voted on the ask, and the teachers have had theirs, and this is now for everybody else.
Right. This is all other classified employees to receive what we agreed to for the resolution for ASME represented employees.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is item 5.07, which is a modification to our policy or Title IX forbidding sex discrimination and harassment. We ask that the Board of Commissioners approve the modified policy as presented.
We need to waive the 30 days, or are we? No?
I think it was on the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Arnold?
Yes.
Commissioner Cosby?
Yes.
Commissioner Ogle?
Yes.
Commissioner Dare White? Yes. Commissioner Hammond?
Yes.
President?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Section 6, we can take it all.
Section 6, General Superintendent Recommendations for Business and Finance. Ask that the Board of Commissioners consider items 6.01 through 6.04 for approval as presented.
Move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments?
I do have one. Somewhere in this mix, there is information about a company in Florida that provides us with some nursing services. We've had conversations in the past about the possibility of partnering with local healthcare organizations, local hospitals to look into nursing staff, and I just want to bring that back up. I think we have plenty of local options we could explore rather than contracting with someone out of state to then provide people in state to work for us.
Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Section 7.
Section 7 is General Superintendent Recommendation for Other Business and Finance. Ask that the Board of Commissioners approve item 7.01, 7.02, and 7.03 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving to Section 8.
Section 8, the General Superintendent Recommendation for Business and Finance for sealed bids. We ask that the Commissioners approve item 8.01 through item 8.13 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Next section is General Superintendent Recommendation for Personnel. We ask that the Board of Commissioners approve the personnel report dated for December 9th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 42. We have no unfinished business or new business, Madam Secretary? Superintendent's comments, please.
Again, just want to show appreciation and gratitude for the leadership and the service of our commissioners that were recognized this evening. Also would like to remind families that we're in the midst of our application period for our magnet and choice options. The application is available to families online. Also, families can complete the application on smartphone devices as well through our IPS app. Those concludes my comments for the evening.
Thank you. Any commissioner comments? Commissioner Arnold?
I would just like to say that very much appreciate your leadership in the past year, and I'm going to miss you on the board and hope that you will stay engaged and involved. I assume you will in one capacity or the other, but I appreciate that. And my second comment relates to the vote that was taken earlier regarding the innovation school, and understanding that the administration has confidence in the Phelan Leadership Program as a good partner to do an innovation school, and that a new board that will be elected or be sworn in January will have the opportunity to revisit that issue and possibly re-vote on that issue.
Anyone else? Commissioner Odle?
Yeah, I just want to also add my thanks and congratulations to those directors, commissioners that will be going off the board. I've learned the last 2 years it's not an easy assignment. And so I think for Commissioner Dare White and Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Roof, thank you for your service and hope that you have the best of luck in your next endeavor. It's not this hard.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
I'll just echo thanks as well. Thank you, Annie. And let me know if there's anything I can do as your board representative in District 1.
Thank you. You have to say something now, everybody else did.
I do. I had it all written out, but I feel kind of silly. I just wanted to say bye to 3 comrades here, but since we lost 2, I'll just speak to you. Thank you for your vote of confidence in allowing me to serve and support roles for you and as your vice president. Your spunky, your great sense of humor has kept things light for us many a time. I admire your courage. You've been through a lot. You came in fighting and you left fighting, and you should be proud of all that you've done. Just to give you guys some highlights, this is the lady that marched her kids up somewhere upstairs in the Ed Center and demanded to see financial documents at a time when board members couldn't even see those.
I was not here.
And it was before Mr. Fairby joined us. But I will say that, you know, that is definitely something to be proud of. You paved the way for us to come along and ask hard questions. You started a blog when no one was talking. You know, you played a major role in getting the community involved in what happens on this board and what happens with IPS. And I just want to say, you know, I'm very grateful for that. Thank you for your leadership. But I bet you won't miss the politics. You know, it's a sad day when we have to sit up here and squabble about what a new board is going to do. We voted on this item this evening because 2 of the members of the selection committee were still present. So Annie and I have been involved in this process from the beginning, and we wanted to see it through. We've outlined our reasons for voting, but, you know, new people, new agendas. So anyway, thanks, Annie, for all you've done. And I just want to say, John Marshall's having a holiday concert Tuesday night, the 16th. Come out and support our kids. You saw what great things they're doing. The choir at John Marshall is incredible, very talented. If you're not doing anything Tuesday the 16th, come on out to John Marshall and support our kids. Thank you.
I wrote some stuff down as well. I wish Samantha and Mike were here as well. But I wanted to say, you know, I started this road as a parent, as one of these parents who would come to board meetings and speak before the board because I was concerned about my children's education. And I decided to run to try and make education better for all children in the system. The journey started 4.5 years ago, and one of the first things we faced as a new board was an eminent domain situation where they were going to tear down 5 houses in a Near East Side neighborhood to expand a school building. And I became friends with the members of that community and tried to help them have their voice being heard. And eventually that community came together and came up with a proposal of a playground on a roof. Oddly enough, I think about a month ago, we were still voting on issues because of that playground on the roof. But at the time I thought, this is it. We jumped in and got our feet wet, and this will be the hardest thing I had to face. It's not true. Since then, I've had the pleasure of working with 3 very different superintendents. We faced a nationally known Title IX investigation that was pretty heated and opened the window of gay rights in our schools. I started a controversial blog. I had a man stalk my home because he was angry because he was fired. Thank you, Chief, for putting that policeman outside my door. I appreciate that. We saved a planetarium at Broad Ripple and had a specialist brought in from Ohio to argue the statements that it wouldn't work to be moved. I went to Les Miserables with a bunch of high school students who invited me to have dinner with them and to see a national touring show with some of our high school students. It was amazing. I have seen fights in the boardroom and things may or may not have been thrown. I've been able to read to children in the schools. I've held the hand of principal as he wept. We've been in this boardroom till 3 a.m. in the morning on a times. I have fought over chocolate milk. Sorry, Jane Cookson, if you're out there. We started a preschool. We switched our delegates to start the meeting instead of at the ending, which they would still be here tonight if they had to wait. I've attended more spelling bees, award ceremonies, and concerts than I can remember. And I didn't think I would make friends in the process. I didn't think I could do the job right with making friends, but I was wrong. There's a lot of great people in IPS, some that are still here and some that aren't, that I have a lot of respect for. And even if I'm not here, your work continues, and I thank you for what you do. You're still my children's teachers, their bus drivers, their lunch people. You deal with their bloody noses on a daily basis, and I appreciate everything that you do to serve not only my children, but all the children of IPS. You know, it was a wild ride, and I was excited to be on, and I wasn't really ready to get off. But I thank you for allowing me to serve. With that, we stand adjourned.